On April 21st, 2025, the Catholic Church marked a sorrowful event in its history. Pope Francis, a symbol of kindness and humility, has passed away after more than a decade leading the global church. His passing not only signals the end of a remarkable papacy, but also raises many questions. What occurs when a pope dies? Who will succeed him? And will the world witness a dramatic shift in power? In this video, we will uncover the ceremonial and mysterious process behind electing a new pope, from the secretive meetings of the College of Cardinals to the names currently being discussed around the world. If you enjoy history, faith, and events shaking the world, this is the place for you. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay informed on important updates. Let's embark on this journey together. First, let's clarify the Pope's identity and his role in the world. You've probably seen the image of the man in white robes, wearing a small crown, waving at crowds from the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica. But the Pope is more than just a symbol. He is the sovereign of Vatican City, the world's smallest country, covering just 44 hectares with a population of around 800, nestled in the heart of Rome, Italy. He is also the spiritual leader of over 1.3 billion Catholics worldwide, representing nearly 17% of the world's population by 2025. His full title is an impressive list: Bishop of Rome, Vicar of Christ, Successor of St. Peter, Supreme Pontiff of the Universal Church, Patriarch of the West, Keeper of the Keys of Heaven, and Servant of the Servants of God. This highlights the Vatican's immense power and influence, not just in religious matters, but in ethics, culture, and global politics. Pope Francis, born Jorge Mario Bergoglio, became Pope on March 13, 2013, following a shocking event: Pope Benedict XVI's resignation. The first time in nearly 100 years that a pope stepped down voluntarily. Born on December 17, 1936, in Buenos Aires, Argentina, Francis is the son of Italian immigrants. Before his priesthood, he studied chemistry and worked as a bouncer at a bar, a humble beginning not often seen in papal history. He joined the Society of Jesus in 1958, was ordained in 1969, and climbed the ranks within the Church of Argentina. In 1998, he became Archbishop of Buenos Aires, and in 2001, Pope John Paul II made him a cardinal. When he became Pope in 2013, he broke centuries of European dominance, becoming the first Pope from Latin America since Pope Gregory III, who passed away in 741, nearly 300 years ago. Pope Francis's leadership style is unlike any other, and it has reshaped global perceptions of the Vatican. Upon his election, he refused to live in the lavish apostolic palace, preferring a modest apartment at the Domus Sancti Marthae, a guest house in the Vatican. He drives a Fiat 500, not an armored limousine, and prioritizes meeting the homeless over politicians. He has washed prisoners' feet, embraced the sick in hospitals, and openly criticized capitalism. Now, at the age of 88, his papacy has come to an end. What happens when a pope dies? Let's dive into the process. When a pope passes away, the Vatican follows a strict process to confirm his death. First, doctors perform medical checks. No heartbeat, no breath, no reflexes. These are modern criteria for determining death. Yet the Vatican retains an ancient ritual to ensure absolute certainty. The Camerlengo, the official who governs the church during a vacant papacy, will personally confirm the death. Currently, Cardinal Kevin Joseph Farrell, appointed by Pope Francis in 2019, holds this position. Upon entering the room, the Camerlengo wears a purple robe, symbolizing mourning, and follows a centuries-old ritual. The ritual is carried out with deep reverence. The Camerlengo approaches the Pope's body, holding a small silver hammer. He calls the Pope's name 3 times. If there is no response, the Camerlengo prays briefly, then declares in Latin, Vere Papa mortuus est. The Pope is truly dead. This marks the end of a papacy and the beginning of a new phase for both the Vatican and the Catholic Church. After the death of a pope, the Vatican initiates a series of essential rituals to uphold the power and continuity of the Church. One of the most significant rituals, overseen by the Camerlengo, is the handling of the fisherman's ring, a symbol of the Pope's highest authority. This gold ring, inscribed with the Pope's name, has been a part of church tradition since St. Peter, to whom Christ entrusted the keys to heaven. The ring serves not only as a symbol, but also to authenticate official papal documents with a wax seal. The ritual of destroying the ring takes place in front of the cardinals and other Vatican officials. The Camerlengo places the ring on a small anvil and strikes it with a hammer to destroy it. At the same time, the lead seal, another crucial item for authenticating papal decrees, is also destroyed. This action holds particular significance. It prevents any attempts to forge documents or orders in the Pope's name after his death. This measure, established in the Middle Ages, was designed to combat political conspiracies within the Church. The destruction of the ring and seal marks the official end of a papacy. It is both a symbolic act and a practical measure to ensure that no one can issue commands in the name of the Pope once he is no longer in office. Following this ritual, the Church enters the sede vacante period, meaning vacant see, preparing for the election of a new Pope. In parallel with the ritual of destroying the ring, the Pope's apartment in the Apostolic Palace is immediately sealed. The sealing serves to protect both the property and the confidentiality of the papacy, from personal letters to sensitive notes. This procedure would also occur in the case of a papal resignation, but without any funeral, mourning, or delays. The focus would quickly shift to the election process. The death of the Pope begins the sede vacante period, Latin for vacant throne. This is a period in which the Catholic Church has no supreme leader, lasting from the moment of the Pope's death or resignation until the election of a successor. During this period, the Camerlengo temporarily manages the Vatican, although his powers are very limited. He cannot pass new laws, appoint bishops, or change policies. Everything remains frozen until the new Pope is chosen. In the event of a Pope's death, the Vatican holds Novendiali, a 9-day mourning period, rooted in ancient Roman Catholic tradition, symbolizing 9 days of prayer for the deceased's soul. The body is transported from the hospital to the Vatican in a special vehicle and placed in a simple pinewood coffin at St. Peter's Basilica, where it will remain open for public visitation. The official funeral is held 4 to 6 days after the Pope's death, usually on the 5th or 6th day, depending on the Vatican's schedule. The College of Cardinals, composed of over 200 cardinals from around the world, will wear purple mourning robes and surround the coffin during the ceremony, presided over by the Dean of the College of Cardinals. Currently, Giovanni Battista Retta world leaders from across the globe, including the U.S. President, German Chancellor, and President of the Philippines, will attend the ceremony, reflecting the Pope's far-reaching influence. Pope Francis had requested a simpler funeral, in contrast to past traditions. Typically, the Pope's body is placed on a catafalque, an elevated ornate platform, with a 3-layered coffin, pinewood on the outer layer, lead in the middle for preservation, and oak on the inside. However, Pope Francis made a break with tradition. For over 500 years, most popes have been buried in the crypt under St. Peter's Basilica, near the tomb of St. Peter, the foundation of the Church. Over 90 popes rest there, from Innocent IX in the 16th century to John Paul II in 2005, in intricately decorated marble tombs. However, Pope Francis chose a different location, the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore, one of Rome's 4 major basilicas, located a few kilometers from the Vatican. This was a place he frequented to pray before and after international trips, especially before the statue of the Virgin Mary, Salus Populi Romani. This decision made him the first pope in over a century not to be buried in the Vatican. since Pope Leo XIII in 1903. The reason for this was not just personal preference. The Vatican crypt was nearing capacity, and Francis wanted to send a message of humility, preferring to be closer to the people rather than hidden away in a sacred fortress. The next step is selecting a new pope through the conclave, the most intriguing part of the process. The term conclave comes from the Latin cum clave, meaning with a key, referencing the cardinals being locked inside the Sistine Chapel to cast their votes. Only cardinals under the age of 80 are eligible to vote, known as the electors. As of March 1, 2025, there are 138 electors, surpassing the 120 limit established by Pope Paul VI in the 70 decree Ingravescentem Aetatem. Pope Francis appointed 110 cardinals between 2013 and 2025 from regions such as Africa, Asia, and Latin America, making the College of Cardinals more diverse than ever. Previously, Europe, particularly Italy, dominated the college, but now Italy has just 17 cardinal electors, while Africa boasts 13, Asia 9, and Latin America 20. This change could influence the election of the next pope in line with the global perspective that Francis has championed during his papacy. The conclave starts between 15 to 20 days after the pope's passing, enough time for cardinals to travel from far-off places like South Sudan or Papua New Guinea to Rome. Before the conclave begins, they gather for a general congregation at the Aula Paolo VI, a large hall in the Vatican, to discuss the challenges faced by the Church. From declining membership in Europe and North America to strong growth in Africa and Asia, as well as internal issues like Vatican financial reforms and abuse scandals. This gathering allows cardinals to become acquainted with each other, observe, and perhaps discreetly lobby for their chosen candidates, though unofficially. On the first day, cardinals wear red, the color of the Holy Spirit, as they enter the Sistine Chapel, beneath Michelangelo's Last Judgment. A vote is held that afternoon to kickstart the process. From the second day, the voting becomes serious. 4 rounds each day, 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, until a winner is chosen. The cardinals stay at the Domus Sancti Marthi, a simple residence built by John Paul II in 1996, with small rooms, single beds, and a communal dining area. But don't assume they're comfortable. They are fully isolated from the outside world. No phones, no internet, no media. Radio is even prohibited. The windows are locked, electronic devices are confiscated, and all staff, ranging from cooks to security guards, are required to take an oath of secrecy under a sacred vow. This isolation dates back to 1274, when Pope Gregory then established conclave laws to prevent interference from European kings, who had previously tried to influence papal elections. The voting process in the Sistine Chapel is formal and solemn. Each cardinal sits at a long wooden table, writing the name of their candidate on a small piece of paper, deliberately altering their handwriting to maintain secrecy. Afterward, they line up, approach the altar, where an ancient silver urn is placed, drop their ballots in, and state aloud, "I call upon Christ to witness that this vote is for the person I believe is worthy." 3 cardinals, called scrutineers, are chosen randomly to count the votes, announcing each name aloud and tallying the votes on a large board in the chapel. A candidate needs 2/3 of the votes to win, currently 92, if there are 138 electors present. If no one wins, a new round starts immediately, with increasing tension. After each round, the ballots are burned in a special iron stove, a tradition since the 19th century to communicate the result to the outside world. Black smoke, created by mixing perch lauret with pine resin, means no pope has been chosen, billowing from the Sistine chimney in a thick cloud. White smoke, made with sulfur and natural resin, indicates that a new pope has been elected, often accompanied by cheers from the crowd in St. Peter's Square. But producing the correct smoke color isn't always easy. In 2005, when Benedict XVI was elected, the smoke came out gray at first, leaving people confused for several minutes before the bells of St. Peter's rang to confirm the result. Today, the Vatican uses an electronic smoke machine to produce a clearer signal, though the tradition of burning the ballots continues as a historical symbol. How long does a conclave last? It depends on the situation and the level of agreement among the cardinals. The 2013 conclave, which chose Pope Francis, was one of the fastest in modern history. Only 25 hours, with 5 voting rounds between March 12th and 13. Cardinal Bergoglio emerged unexpectedly in the final round, defeating opponents like Cardinal Angelo Scola of Italy and Cardinal Marc Ouellet of Canada. But history holds some astonishing records. The longest conclave, from 1268 to 1271, lasted 1,006 days, almost 3 years, to elect Pope Gregory X. At that time, the cardinals were divided between the Italian faction seeking internal power and the French faction influenced by King Charles of Anjou. The people of Rome were so furious that they tore off the roof of the meeting hall in Viterbo and cut down food rations to bread and water to force a decision. The outcome? Gregory X issued the Ubi Periculum Law in 1274, which limited the time and conditions for the conclave, laying the groundwork for the modern process. Today, the law includes a flexible clause. If, after 33 rounds around 12 to 13 days, no one gets 2/3, the cardinals can opt for a simple majority vote. 50% plus 1, meaning 70 votes if there are 138 electors. However, this rarely happens, as the cardinals usually prefer to maintain the 2/3 tradition to ensure that the winner has broad support. The longest modern conclave occurred in 1831, lasting 54 days to elect Pope Gregory XVI, a conservative pope who opposed liberal movements in Europe. With the upcoming conclave, if the cardinals are divided between Pope Francis's progressive faction and the conservative faction seeking a return to tradition, the process could last longer than usual. Who could be elected as pope? Theoretically, any baptized Catholic man is eligible, from a local priest in Vietnam, a layperson in Brazil, to a bishop in South Africa. Canon law does not require candidates to be cardinals, priests, or even ordained. In reality, however, since 1378, every pope has been a cardinal, a tradition that has lasted over 600 years. The last time a non-cardinal was chosen was Pope Urban VI in 1378, when he was the Archbishop of Naples. His papacy was chaotic, leading to the Western Schism, a split in the Church with 2 rival popes in Rome and Avignon from 1378 to 1417. Since then, the cardinals have kept the selection within their ranks to prevent another crisis, making the conclave a closed election among them. Nevertheless, there are no formal election campaigns or official lists of candidates. Cardinals do not publicly campaign or make speeches. Instead, they pray, engage in private discussions during the general congregation, and vote based on their personal impressions and trust in the guidance of the Holy Spirit, at least in theory. In practice, internal politics always play a role. For example, in 1903, Cardinal Giuseppe Sarto, who later became Pope Pius VII, won despite not seeking the position, due to the Italian faction's alliance against the progressive candidate Mariano Rampolla, who was vetoed by the Austro-Hungarian Empire. With the upcoming conclave, no one can predict for certain how alliances will form. But Pope Francis's legacy, with a more global College of Cardinals, will certainly exert strong influence. Once a candidate receives 2/3 of the votes, what happens next? The Dean of the College of Cardinals, currently Cardinal Ray, approaches the winner and asks in Latin, "Acceptasne electionem, de te canonice factum in summum pontificem?" Do you accept the canonically valid election as Supreme Pontiff? If the candidate agrees, they are then asked, "Quo nomine vis vocari?" What name would you like to be called? The winner then chooses a papal name. For example, Bergoglio chose Francis, after St. Francis of Assisi, the patron saint of the poor. The new pope then enters the Room of Tears, a small room next to the Sistine Chapel, to dress in white, wear the papal tiara, and prepare to step out onto the St. Peter's balcony. The dean of the College of Cardinals then announces, "Habemus Papam," we have a pope, declaring the new pope's name and title, after which the pope appears to greet the crowd. But what if the candidate refuses? Though rare, there is a precedent. In 1277, a candidate declined due to fear of the pressure, causing the conclave to vote again. Pope Francis accepted in the fifth round, but not everyone is ready to bear the weight of leading 1.3 billion followers. So, who could succeed Pope Francis? Since the conclave is a secret process, no surveys, no interviews, no official predictions, we can only speculate. However, Vatican observers from La Croix to the National Catholic Reporter often compile a list of papabile, potential candidates. First, we need to discard the political left or right labels that apply to the secular world. Within the Church, the boundaries are more complex. A cardinal might be conservative on theological issues, opposing abortion, same-sex marriage, or the ordination of women, but progressive on social justice, climate change, or outreach to non-believers. Pope Francis exemplifies this. He upholds traditional moral teachings, but has opened doors to divorced and remarried individuals, washed the feet of Muslims, and called for the protection of our common home in his 2015 Laudato Si encyclical. The successor may continue this legacy or turn back towards more conservative directions, depending on the disposition of the College of Cardinals. If the cardinals wish to maintain Francis's global vision, they could choose a pope from outside Europe. Cardinal Luis Antonio Joaquim Tagle from the Philippines is a strong candidate. Born June 21, 1957, in Manila, he is 67 years old and has earned the nickname Asian Pope due to his approachable style and progressive views. As Archbishop of Manila from 2011 to 2019, Tagle was called to the Vatican by Pope Francis in 2019 to lead the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples, overseeing the global missionary effort. He is known for his emotional sermons, often shedding tears on television when speaking about the poor, and his simple lifestyle, riding public bicycles, and eating at local eateries instead of staying in a bishop's mansion. Tagle is especially popular with young people and often appears on YouTube with his show The Word Exposed. If elected, he would become the first Asian pope, representing the fastest-growing Catholic region in the world, Asia, where the Philippines has over 80 million Catholics. Another non-European candidate is Cardinal Peter Kodwo Apaya Turkson from Ghana. Born October 11, 1948, in Wasau, Suta, he is 76 years old and was Archbishop of Cape Coast from 1992 to 2009. In 2003, he became the first Ghanaian cardinal under Pope John Paul II. From 2009 to 2016, he led the Vatican's Council for Justice and Peace and contributed to drafting Laudato Si, the environmental encyclical that bears Pope Francis's mark. Turkson is a moderate figure, respected both in Africa, where Catholicism is rapidly growing with over 230 million followers, and in the West. If elected, he would become the first African pope since Pope Gelasius I in 496, marking a historic shift. However, at 76, his health might pose a challenge, especially after the Church just experienced a pope with significant health issues. Europe, birthplace of 262 out of 266 popes, remains the center of power, with over 50% of the electing cardinals. Cardinal Péter Erdő from Hungary is a notable name. Born June 25, 1952, in Budapest, he is 72 years old and has been Archbishop of Esztergom, Budapest, since 2002. Erdő is conservative on theological matters, opposing clerical reforms, maintaining church discipline, and opposing the ordination of women. positions that conflict with some of Pope Francis's more progressive ideas. He has previously chaired a 2015 Cardinal Conference on the family, showcasing his managerial skills and influence. If the cardinals wish to return to a stricter traditional approach after Pope Francis's more open papacy, Erdo would be an ideal choice. However, his stern approach could divide the Church as it seeks to reconcile conservative and progressive factions. Italy, the birthplace of 17 cardinal electors and over 100 popes throughout history, is certainly home to some strong contenders. Cardinal Pi Battista Pizzaballa stands out as a prominent figure. Born on April 21, 1965, in Cologno al Serio, at 59 years old, he has been the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem since 2020, a delicate role in the conflict-stricken Holy Land. He gained international attention in 2023 by visiting Catholics in Gaza during the Israel-Hamas war, even proposing a swap of hostages taken on October 7th for peace. His courage and political insight have earned him admiration, though his youth may be seen as a disadvantage by some older cardinals who might prefer a leader with more experience. If he is elected, Pizzaballa will be the first Italian pope since the death of John Paul II in 2005, restoring the Italian tradition after two foreign popes, Benedict XVI from Germany and Francis from Argentina. Another Italian contender is Cardinal Pietro Parolin, born on January 17, 1955, in Schiavon, making him 70 years old. Parolin has served as the Vatican's Secretary of State since 2013, essentially the Prime Minister of the Church, and is a seasoned diplomat who played a key role in negotiating the landmark 2018 deal with China regarding bishop appointments, a move that was controversial within the Church. Known as moderate, he is conservative on moral issues, but open to dialogue with the modern world, a balance that could help bridge divides within the College of Cardinals. Parolin's close relationship with Pope Francis and his experience managing the Vatican, from the IOR banking reforms to handling diplomatic crises, make him a reliable candidate for those seeking stability and continuity after Francis's turbulent papacy. Yet, as history has shown, the unexpected can always emerge. The surprise elections of Pope John Paul I in 1978, who reigned for just 33 days before his mysterious death, with some speculating poisoning, though without evidence, highlights how unpredictable the conclave can be. Cardinal Christoph Schönborn from Austria is another possible candidate. Born on January 22, 1945, in Skalsko, he will turn 80 by January 22, 2025. If the conclave occurs before then, he remains eligible to vote. As the Archbishop of Vienna since 1995, Schönborn is deeply knowledgeable in theology and even helped compile the 1992 Catechism of the Catholic Church. He is known for his reconciliatory approach, seeking a balance between conservative and progressive stances. However, his age may disqualify him if the conclave takes place later. Cardinal Matteo Maria Zuppi from Italy is also worth noting. Born on October 11, 1955 in Rome, he is 69 years old and has been the Archbishop of Bologna since 2015. Zuppi is part of the Sant'Egidio community, a prominent peace movement, and is known for his progressive stance, supporting the poor, migrants, and advocating for peace in Ukraine in 2023. In 2022, he visited Kiev to deliver Pope Francis's peace message. If the cardinals wish to continue Francis's humanitarian legacy, Zuppi would be an ideal candidate, though some conservatives may be hesitant due to his open views. Cardinal Sean Patrick O'Malley from Boston, an unexpected name, has also entered the conversation. Born on June 29, 1944, in Ohio, he will turn 80 in June 2024, but if the conclave occurs before then, he remains eligible. As a Capuchin, with his iconic white beard, O'Malley has led the Archdiocese of Boston since 2003, gaining recognition for his tough but compassionate approach to handling the sexual abuse scandals in the U.S. He is a close advisor to Pope Francis in the Cardinal Council C9, and if elected, would become the first American pope. A groundbreaking shift in geopolitics, although the U.S. has never had a cardinal ascend to the papacy. There are other potential dark horse candidates. Cardinal João Braz de Aves from Brazil, born in 1947, 77 years old, is a progressive leader of the Vatican's Congregation for Institutes of Consecrated Life, representing the rapidly growing Latin American Church, home to over 425 million Catholics. Cardinal Marc Ouellet from Canada, born in 1944, 80 years old in June 2024, was a strong contender in 2013 with conservative views, but his age may exclude him if the conclave is delayed. Cardinal Robert Sarah from Guinea, born in 1945, 79 years old, is an outspoken conservative voice who has criticized Pope Francis's reforms, though his age and rigidity may limit his support. What makes this conclave particularly special? Pope Francis has dramatically reshaped the College of Cardinals during his 12-year papacy. From 2013 to 2025, he appointed 110 new cardinals, reducing the dominance of Europe 58 electors and Italy 12, while increasing representation from Asia int Africa 13 and Latin America 20. Before Francis, Italy usually accounted for 25 to 30% of cardinal electors, but now that number has dropped to just 12%. This shift in diversity could lead to the election of a non-European pope for the second consecutive time, something unprecedented in modern history. However, the pressure to maintain European tradition remains strong, especially given Italy's deep influence in the Vatican over centuries, from finance and theology to its vast network of relationships. The conclave is not just an election. It's a complex mixture of spirituality, politics, and tradition. Cardinals believe the Holy Spirit guides them to choose the right leader. But history shows that alliances, disagreements, and personal ambitions always come into play. Back in 1534, Cardinal Alessandro Farnese campaigned aggressively to become Pope Paul III, using money and promises to buy votes. Today, such tactics are far less likely due to the strict isolation procedures, but secretive discussions in the general congregation remain the place where factions are formed. For Pope Francis, his election in 2013 was made possible by unexpected support from progressive South American factions and some European cardinals who sought change after Pope Benedict XVI's conservative papacy. The world will be watching Vatican City, waiting for the white smoke to rise from the Sistine Chapel chimney. It will be a historic moment, not just for the 1.3 billion Catholics, but for all of humanity, as the Pope is not only a religious leader, but also a moral voice in a turbulent world. Who do you think will be the next Pope? A young cardinal from Asia like Tagle, an Italian diplomat like Parolin, or a surprise candidate from Africa like Turkson? Leave your thoughts below, like and subscribe so you won't miss the next video. Thanks for watching this lengthy video. I hope you found it worthwhile. See you soon.